Okay, just keep an eye on that.
That's fine.
Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm just going to get a bit of an idea of what you hopefully come up with. Are we ready for your names to fall down?
Or diagram as well.
Oh, again, it's just mudaththir. Okay, can we have focus? Can everyone listen very carefully to Sheikh Mudaththir? So, what would you have as learning objectives? Instead of know how to plan a lesson, memorize this, and discuss that.
We could bring the diamond line into.
Okay. Okay. So instead, what you could do, what you're saying is have discuss or debate at the front. So discuss and debate how to plan a lesson. Yep. Already by doing that, you put that at the front. So you're going high level thinking. Okay. Okay. Next one. Maria, she's not here.
Maria's here.
Maria Hussein.
No, the other one.
Oh, Sheikh Jubair. Okay. Right. So, how would you kind of rewrite the learning objectives to make the lesson more engaging? Or using a higher order thinking?
I'll pass on to Muhammad.
Okay, so from your group, so what did you guys come up with?
Muhammad thought analysing.
Okay, very good. So, analysing what?
The lesson.
Okay, so analysing a lesson plan. So you might give them a lesson plan each and say, look, analyse what it is, write about it. And yeah, okay. What else? What else could be done? Yeah. Okay, you know what? We'll give you a little break, but I'll tell you what I did. With one of the lessons, so when I was writing this up, I used understanding, I used interpret, I used analyse, compare and contrast, creating, and create. So I rewrote this up, right? Okay. So, understand and explain the basic structure of a lesson plan, okay. Compare the components of a lesson plan, and create a lesson plan for zakat and sadaqah, for a mixed ability class. And you're going to be doing this at the end, inshallah. Okay? So, understand and explain, compare the components of a lesson plan. What also you could do, you can compare two different types of lesson plans. Okay? So you can have a traditional lesson plan, or what's really famous in the teaching world now is a 5-minute lesson plan. Anyone see one of those? No? Okay. I didn't want to bring it in today, it'll be too much. Okay. But it's on the resources, you can have a look at the videos I put on there, look at all the thing at the outline, you can use it. So once you're used to the traditional one, it's most important that you know how the lesson plan is structured. Then you can use a 5-minute one, which is really creative. Okay. So what I did with another madrasa, somewhere else, is I wrote 2 lesson plans for that actual lesson I was going to teach. So one was the traditional one, the very long one, and one was a 5-minute one. So I asked them to compare them and contrast. So I told them to write down the good things from both and bad things from both, and which one they would prefer and why. Okay, and they did that in groups. So again, it's not just about memorize this, learn this, do that. Do you understand where we're trying to go now? Okay, and especially within madrasas, we need to go up the ladder, and not just go up the ladder. We need to go beyond school teaching, because I strongly believe school education is in crisis at the moment. Okay, it's very much in crisis. I teach in school. Okay. So we need to go beyond that. We need to say to students, we need to give them what the schools are not giving them. Okay? Not just spirituality, but also skills, proper, being critical skills. Like being, making them question teachers, but with respect, etc. Okay? Right, let's see what's next, and then we'll stop, inshallah. Just for a very quick 5-minute break. Because otherwise we'll be going against what Imam Ghazali said, but he spoke about children. Okay, I'll leave that. So, right there, inshallah. Okay, so you can have a 5-minute with this fruits at the back, with water as well. I was initially thinking of bringing samosas in, but then we've asked our teachers to plan a lesson on eating halal and healthy. So that's one of our next lessons. So I thought it would be against that. So we've got some fruits. So we'll resume in about just under 5 minutes.
Pause that.
As you do, that's one thing that we need to kind of move on to. So, second type of question is the open-ended question. The open-ended question could be, right, how do you think Prophet ﷺ must have felt whilst giving his last sermon? I could say, okay, Sheikh Mudathir, tell me. Sorry for picking on you. That's a method of keeping you awake. Yeah, so differentiating. Okay, so he would say, I think he would have felt sad. Okay, interesting. And then I asked Ustadh Maryam, she might say, no, I think he would have felt happy. Oh, why is that? Why do you think he would have felt happy? Oh, because this is his final sermon, he's meeting all his companions, all his friends. Okay, so Ustadh Badr, why do you think he would have felt sad? Oh, it's his last sermon. And he might not meet many of them again. So you see the way they're engaging with Prophet directly in this, trying to understand his feelings. And the third one would say, he might be feeling something else. He might be feeling something, different things. And I'm going to show you how to ask these questions. Okay? And some of the stuff that we're going to give you now is something which the teachers are just coming up with now. It's fresh. Okay? It's really refreshing, nice and hot. And so that's the thing, that's the important thing. When you do pose, pause, pounce, bounce, don't forget, that's for open-ended questions, not for closed-ended questions. Not for closed questions. Most important thing. Okay. Right. Before we carry on, we have just what you've done now is you were just floating across starter. I've done a bit of differentiation. Okay. I'll come back to that towards the end. We're now towards the starter in May. And you know what you use for starters, you can also use for the dessert as well. Okay. It wouldn't work in thing. But actually, there is some kind of hadith where Prophet used to eat sweet first, right? Okay. So it might work in that sense as well. Okay. But anyway, to get all that. On our resources, which you've got the link for, we have a whole list of we've given you about 200 or 300 starters that you can use. Given you about 100, 200 plenaries that you could use. Do you want me to quickly show you so that you're excited about using them, inshallah? Yeah, I'm going to quickly show you. So when you go on our website, you'll be directed to a link, and you will have, inshallah, I'll open this up, you will have all of these. Okay? Inside each folder, there's different things. So, for example, for starter, there's some generic starters and plenaries which you can use both ways. All those are separate ones you can use. Try and use a different one every single lesson. Right? Let's not bore them. Everything is there. Everything is basically on a plate for you now. Yeah? Starter. So, for example, here is a really interesting, the starter generator. So, if you don't know what to do, what I tend to do, so I'll show you what I do in a minute. In this, there are 122 starters in here. You believe that? Yeah, all of these are starters. So for example, let's look at something. Okay, that's one thing. Okay, if you've come into class, remember you don't always have to have PowerPoint. If you're in a madrasa that doesn't have PowerPoint, you just print these out. Have them in front of you. You write them on the board. You can always compromise. You can always do that. Okay. So what if no one was responsible? What if questions? What if? Okay. What if there were no laws? That can take you on to fiqh. Why is fiqh important? Why are laws important? Why do you have to follow certain laws in the Quran? What would happen if there were no laws? If you're doing fiqh, you can always come back to that. Different plenaries. Let me show you the actual plenary plate. It's called. It's really cool. And what you can do is you can come into the classroom. You can use it as a starter or plenary. And I actually used this in one of my other schools before. Yeah, plenary is on the plate. Okay, Ustadh Mudathir, I'm going to move this around. You're going to tell me to stop. Tell me to stop anytime you want.
Stop.
Where am I? Okay, here. So I click on this. Each circle represents a different starter. Okay. If you have a really cool whiteboard, you can just ask the students to come forward and click on it, and it'll just come up. So the pink one, yeah. Okay. So that's a plenary. So you can say, to what extent do you feel you have learned in today's lesson, and why? That could be at the end, last 5 minutes, 10 minutes. Once I had a plenary like this. So what I did was I used it as a starter. Went into class, didn't really plan a lesson, so I just opened up one of these. Okay, you pick one, clicked on the button, and the thing was, whatever you learned last lesson, write a song about it. Okay, imagine that. I thought, oh my God, how is this going to work? But secondary school, they like this kind of, do this kind of stuff. Okay, so they went back. I said, so if anyone's shy, you can always remember differentiate. If you don't write a song, write a poem about it. Yeah, so not a song poem. Well, what they just went crazy. They wrote proper song. Okay, so they went back, and it was interesting. It was about the Cold War, city history. Okay, so they're writing about Cold War, and writing about USSR, and Mao Zedong in China, Okay, and they came up with some really good like songs and raps. Some of them are all raps. Okay, and they came up at the front and they presented it all in 15 minutes. Okay, so that's, you can use that as well, and you'll be surprised as well. Okay, that was one. I was really surprised, really impressed with them. Yeah, so there's different kinds of. There's some other ones that are really cool. I'll show you this. I quite like these. Some people are afraid of them. Okay, so for example, so yeah, here we have one of your favorites here. Yeah. Okay, so basically, what picture most matches your learning today and why? Okay. So if you're talking about zakat, for example, so okay, so what you do as students, you tell students, okay, look, I'll give you 5 minutes in groups or in pairs, discuss how all of these pictures relate to what you have learned today. So again, you'll give them a different angle to look at the whole thing from. Okay, so Bill Gates. So much. What will we do? Oh, we'll leave that out. Yeah, sure. Okay. Anyway, gifts, charity. There's different ways of engaging students. Try this. Sometimes, when I look at this first, I was like, how are they going to do this? But they're used to this kind of stuff. Okay. When they see stuff like that, they straight away engage with it. Straight away, the questions asked, primary and secondary. Okay. So that's another. You've got about 200 of these slides with different pictures, with different styles, different plenaries. You've got them, inshallah. And if you want a DVD, remember, like I said, evaluation form, write your address. It's just that last night I started doing it. Each disc took about 20 minutes. Okay. So I will take out the time and I'll send them to you as well. Or otherwise, you can download all of them if you want from our website. Okay. So that's that. So in starters and plenaries, you can do it both ways. So this could be a starter in the sense you come into the lesson and say, what did you learn last lesson? Link it to this. Okay? Or at the end of the lesson, you can say, what did you learn today? Link it to one of these pictures. Okay? And you get them to write it down at the end. If they write on plenary, write down. It's very simple. They get engaged straight. You don't need to stand there and give them a lecture. Okay? Right. Can we move on? Sorry about all the theory behind it, but okay, we'll move on now. So basically, if we click on these, it should open up the actual PowerPoint. Okay, just go directly to the PowerPoints. Let me just quickly show you some more resources we have. Okay, these are the generic starters and plenaries. We've used quite a lot of these. Okay, I think when you go back, do have a look through these starters. Quite a lot. Quite a lot of stuff on the main. Plenary, 5 lesson plan, AFL, Bloom's Taxonomy. Quite a lot of things. There's videos on there. Yeah, so there's a lot of films I've got on here as well for you if you want to use them. It really goes on, like, Ghazali, a story about the Prophet. There's some lectures I want you to listen to by Ken Robinson. Remember that name? Ken Robinson. Okay. And John Taylor Gatto. 2 people. Okay. Listen to their lectures. Ken Robinson and John Taylor Gatto. Okay. Right. Okay, fine. So I will stop lecturing in a few minutes and you'll be discussing again. Okay, now this is hot off the press. This is really, really up and coming and it's really cool. We started using it in our madrasa. This will help your children learn how to evaluate, analyze, top order thinking. Okay. This is very good for analyzing, evaluating. Okay. Something they try to do at schools, but when you have 30 kids, different mixed abilities, it's very difficult to do that. Okay. So, you should have one of these. If you can take it out, put it in front. To give you a good idea, it should be amongst the papers somewhere. And if you want to use it with your kids, you can use this PowerPoint will help you significantly. All you've got to do, I'm going to put a picture up here in a minute. Okay? You just change the picture every time and I'll show you how. Okay, everyone's got it? Okay, right. So, asking questions. Again, going back to our madrasa days, teacher says, do mutala, how? So some of you might be thinking, how can we ask questions? How can we ask questions? I remember I walked into a lesson, and for some reason I didn't plan that lesson. Just on questioning, I went on, this was like a history lesson in school, went on for like a whole hour, just using questions. Okay? And there was like someone else sitting there was learning, and they were quite happy with the way I engaged the students. So, questioning. And when we say deeper questioning, this is how you do it. And this is how we make our students do it. You'll be really impressed by the end of this. First of all, you look at the column on the left, okay, left side. Remember, if you're doing a PhD, you can use it as well. If you're in nursery, you can use this as well. So Sheikh Yahya, you might want to listen carefully on this. And at the top, so you have the black side, and on top we have the red bit. Okay. Now what is that for? What we tend to do is give students like a picture for them to analyze and make up questions. So first, I was asking the difficult questions, and students were coming up with answers for the difficult questions. Now, with this one, we're going to put up interesting pictures, okay, or diagrams, or even quotes. Okay. You can even put a hadith there in the middle and ask them to do this. Okay. And then they ask questions. Okay. And the way to make questions is very difficult for kids to make questions, even for us. But the way to do it is, you use one word from this side, column, and you use one word from this row, and you put it inside a sentence and make up a question. Okay? And the idea is, you work further away from where it says question matrix. So if you're asking a how and might question, you're asking a higher order, higher level question. If you're asking a simple what is this, it's a lower level question, but it's important as well. Okay? So generally you're supposed to start from there and move on. Okay? So what we did, actually let's get you to do this. Okay? Not here, just ignore this. Okay. We're teaching shirk. This is a picture I found. Okay? I don't think we've done it with them yet. But shirk is more than just associating partners with Allah. What about worshipping all these celebrities? Okay? So this is a picture that we put up there. We would say, come up with questions about this. So should we try this now in class? So let's do it linked with zakat, and we'll come back to this. You can put different kinds of pictures. Okay, now let's do this because we've done it in class, and I can talk about what we did. So Masjid al-Nimra, it is believed it's around here, that Prophet ﷺ gave the final sermon. Okay, you can imagine it would have been this packed, all these people there, surrounded by Prophet ﷺ, or surrounding him, and giving his farewell sermon. So what we did was, we asked them to come up with 5 questions. 5 questions. So they come up with 5 questions, using the question matrix and asking higher order questions, and then swapping their papers with their partners, getting them to answer them. Okay, so they're coming up with higher order questions, swapping with their partners, and getting them to answer them. And then teacher's role is just to walk around and help them. You don't have to stand there and, sometimes it's important to give a lecture about what happened, how it felt, but engage them more. And then when you give the lecture, it'll be much more effective. They'll understand it more, they've already engaged, they're already half there. Okay, you just need to pull them, the other half. Okay? So what we'll do, let's see what questions you come up with. And what we're doing now in our madrasa, we're making dies now. Okay? Red one, black one. And what they do in pairs, what they're supposed to do is, on the black one is all the words from here, red one all the words from here. They roll the dice, okay? Whatever comes up. So for example, here it says where and has. Okay, so where and has. So it's not really cool, but okay, where has this taken place? Or where did this happen? That's a question. You make up the question, and someone who's replying would reply to whatever it is. And teacher's job is, if someone gets it wrong, outright wrong, we just correct them. Okay? So we do that again, all nice, and in pairs. See how we're turning it into a game. So we're kind of following Imam Ghazali here. Okay? So again, asking questions. So what I would like you to do, I'll just give you 2 minutes to come up with 3 questions about this picture, but going further away from the question matrix. By this time, we've already told them about the last sermon, put on a little clip about the last sermon, told them Prophet ﷺ was there, it's his final sermon before he passes away after some time. So 3 questions about this picture. Okay. Using the question matrix, let's see if you can do it, and I'll come around to help you as well. Use one word from this side, one word from this side, put it in a question, and ask a question. That's it. Just come up with a question. You don't need to answer it.
Individually. Individually or?
Oh, see, very bad instructions. Okay, very bad instructions. So you can do it as a pair, you can do it individually. I think let's do it individually. Yeah. If you want to do it as a pair, that's fine as well. So I'll leave this to you. How's coming up? Is everything okay? Do you know how you've done the stretching, right? Yes, yeah, you understand how to. So I want to hear some questions afterwards. Okay? So I think your name might come again.
Have you just written his name on all the sticks?
You like this one? Oh yeah, exactly. As well. Differentiation. When we ask our students to write down notes, what we tend to do is, you know the wedding paper? Or that thing that's on the tell them to write his name. If you use it in barbecue, we'll just throw it away if he hasn't got his name on it. So that's one thing as well. We'll just use a white pen. I'm going to pull out the names again in about 2 minutes, and we're going to get some responses, inshallah. I'm doing this, I'm trying to create a fair. Sheikh, Jazakallah Okay, you've got another minute, and then we'll get back. Inshallah, we'll come back. Is that 11 o'clock?
Yes. Sounds fun. Is that good or bad?
Extremely bad. I didn't realise. I thought we had another hour and a half, 2 hours. Anyway, we'll try and cut through. Okay, right. Can we come back here, inshallah? 5. Again, we'll count down to 5. I want everyone to look this way. Everyone's eyes on the board. And nothing in their hands. Okay. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I will confiscate that phone. You'll get it back in 48 hours. Okay, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, we've got really less time. Really, I'm quite amazed. Okay, pull out some names and see what questions you have as a group or as a pair. Okay, just go down. Oh, Yahya.
Why might the Prophet have chosen this place?
Oh, interesting. Why might, so again, higher order thinking, why might the Prophet have chosen this place in particular? So this would make the teacher now do some homework. Okay? Because what's going to happen is the partner is going to try and respond, he's going to come up with answers, and then say, okay, interesting, I will let you know next lesson. And they'll be interested as well. So this is what we can move on to, right? And if you already know the answer, you can always feed it into them. Okay? Muhammad Patel. Who is Sheikh Muhammad Patel? Let's go for it.
Who else could deliver the sermon?
Okay. Who else could deliver the sermon? Interesting. That's a very important question. Who else could have done it? Just say if the Prophet was ill. Who else could? You can open up the whole debate of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Okay. And Umar, and the whole. You can go a lot down that route. Okay. Okay. Maryam Sadak.
Why might the Prophet ﷺ have chosen the particular things he discussed in his last sermon?
Okay, interesting. So why might the the Prophet had chosen the actual content of what he was going to mention in the sermon. Remember, imagine this lesson, they would have already done a starter on Diamond 9 about what he's already said, and now they can really engage with that. Okay? And are you the second, Mariam?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you also give us one?
Who will benefit from it?
Okay. Who
Or
will or who might, yeah? Who will benefit from the Prophet's last sermon? That's a very good question, because what they can start discussing now is who will benefit. First of all, those around the Prophet, okay, those further around him. And what did he say towards the end of the sermon? That those of you who are present here, pass it on to others till now. So till now, we will also be benefiting from it. So can you see how you can really engage with this, rather than just standing and giving a lecture about it? And the students are fully engaged. And what happens is the following week, when you ask a student a question about it, they're more engaged because they've spoken about it. Okay? And that's where one of those sheets I've given out, we won't talk about it too much, but you can look at it later on at some point. Let's have a look. I promise to give yours back, Sheikh. This one, yes. Okay. The one with this triangle, this cone. Called the Edgar Dale's Cone of Learning. Okay. So here he talks about, now just listen to this very carefully, he says 10% of what they read, so what they read, they'll only remember 10% of it. So if students are reading a textbook, and usually this is what happens in madrasas, you give a textbook, say, okay, let's read this together and answer the questions. They'll only remember 10% of that. Okay? However, if you're giving a lecture, they'll take 20% of it. That's all they can really take from it, 20% of it. What they see, so pictures, they take about 30% of this stuff. Okay, so just by looking at this picture, they'll always remember this picture. If you say to them, Prophet's last sermon, this picture will come in their head. Always, that's what's going to happen. As opposed to what you said. 50% of what they see and hear. So if you're standing here and they're discussing and hearing, 50% of that they will remember, the whole. Okay? 70% of what they say and write. So what we just did, made you watch this, hear some of me, and made you write it down as well, write down your own questions. You'll remember 70% of that. Okay, this is approximate analysis. And 90% of what they do. So they, writing it down, asking questions, and then responding to questions, they're now engaged fully. It's called kinesthetic learning. Okay? They will remember 90% of that. Okay? So this is how it's kind of done. What Ustadh Yahya did after that was, once they'd done this discussion, they'd done Diamond 9, they'd done this, then they were told to write a diary entry. Okay, they were told to write a diary entry of how it would have felt if they were one of those companions in the Prophet's last sermon. Okay, so it was really interesting. And what we did, we didn't just focus on how they must have felt, but also literacy skills. We added it on. So, for example, there was a student. He said, "I was feeling really sad in the corner." Okay, and everyone was crying, and I was crying in the corner. So I said, "How can we make that more exciting?" Okay, so I said to him, "Where was that corner?" So he was like, "This was about the Prophet's death." Okay, "Where was this corner?" He was like, "It was the corner of the mosque." Okay, "Which corner of the mosque? Was it the northern side or the southern side?" "Oh, it was near the entrance." He looked up. He was like, "It's near the entrance." Okay, so it was a corner in the Prophet's mosque near the entrance. What was on top? Like, was there a roof or was it just palm trees? He looked up like this. He goes, "Oh, there were palm trees." Okay, and what was happening when people were coming in the mosque? So now rewrite that. Instead of just saying, "I was feeling sad in the corner." So he progressed into, when the Prophet ﷺ passed away and the news came to us, at that very moment, I was in a corner of the Prophet's mosque on the southern side, near the entrance, and above me were palm trees, and water was trickling through as if they were crying too. Right? So it's from in the corner to all of this. So this is what the teacher's supposed to do. Just say, look, okay, add this, and I did this through questioning again. I didn't teach him how to write. What we also did was we gave him like a full sheet with sentence starters, okay, for how to write a diary entry. So they were using those as well. So we basically bringing literacy into this. What schools should be doing better, and we're adding it into how they actually feel and their feelings and how to express themselves. So that's a way to go about it. Okay, I think that's a good way of doing it, and I think if you try this, and this obviously you won't be able to take 100% of this and apply it over 2 years, 3 years. It takes time. Some of these things I learned not hundreds of years ago, but a very long time ago. But that's that. Okay. Yes, zakat. Coming back to zakat. We won't make you write questions for these, but you can imagine. Imagine doing the same. What, where, when, which, who, why, using one of the other words with this. Okay? Now, if you think this has been used too much, because it has, in almost every, I use this quite a lot, you can find a similar one with a bit more controversy. Okay? Same picture, they've added an ice cream man at the back. Okay? So what's happening here? What do you think is happening? Why do you think it's happening? Talking about the global world. Okay? We live in a world which is very closely knit together. Okay? So right now, that's us basically. That's us here. The people by the ice cream van. And this was happening on the same planet to our fellow humans. Okay? What do you feel about this? Okay? How might you feel, or how would you feel about these people if you were there? Okay? What would you have done if you were there? And then you bring that onto zakat. You bring that onto sadaqah. What do we need to do? Okay? And this is where zakat moves away from, we've got to pay zakat, it's one of the 5 pillars, and then you've got to pay 2.5%, let's use some percentages, bring that in, numeracy. No, make them really think deep. Why is sadaqah used so much? Okay, the impression I get, the Sahaba used to give so much sadaqah, they hardly had anything left for zakat. Okay, so this is where we can move it, and to be a bit more creative, here's a bit of a caricature of it. Picture at the top. The vulture feels sorry for the child, brings it some milk, or water or milk, and he drinks it. What is that trying to say about the vulture? That even the vulture is fed up with the human situation. That even it feels sorry for this child. Okay? This was a very famous picture. Okay? The person who took this picture died after a few months because of the pain that he suffered from it. And he got so many awards as well. You can add all that on. So do you understand what you can do with this? This thing that you're using now, it is for any lesson at all, absolutely any lesson. You just got to think about what picture to put there in the middle. Okay? Like I've got a few there, ask them to choose one from there, and to move on. Here's another one of my favourite quotes and pictures. The world's hunger is getting ridiculous. There is more fruit in a rich man's shampoo than in a poor man's plate. Okay? Make them ask questions about this. Think deeply about this. What do we... I mean, the rich man in this quote is us. It's us who have more fruit in our shampoo than this child in his plate. Okay? So we need to engage with this. What do we do now? So that's how we kind of, make them think. This can be put up as a starter right at the beginning of a lesson. Just engage them. And then finally, once you've engaged them, that's what starter is about. It's that bait, okay, for the children. And once they engage and they're ready to take on, then you say, what is Islam's solution? For example, sadaqah, zakat, or further to fight oppression, to critically engage with the world, etc.